I got locked up and arrested on my 20th birthday.
Get on the ground!
A lot of darkness, a lot of pessimism, no hope.
When I went to prison, I lost everything.
Give me both hands.
When you come to prison, you're at the lowest point of your life.
There are more than 30,000 inmates incarcerated in the Virginia prison system. Most of the offender population live day after day without hope, without direction, and without the knowledge of a Savior who loves and forgives them.
I've been in here since 1978, and I was lost. I've been lost for the last 45 years of my life.
A lot of us, when we enter the prison system, you know, we deal with a great deal of disappointment behind the way our lives turned out. You know, the people we've let down.
When I first went to prison at 20 years old, I was young. They threw me straight into this maximum security institution, and I had to develop an attitude and grow up really, really quick. If I would have continued in that life and been able to get out of prison without Kairos, I could have possibly been dead by now.
These men and women have a spiritual sickness of the heart that can only be cured by the love of Christ. But many of them have never even heard of Jesus. That's where the ministry of Kairos of Virginia comes in. For more than 3 decades, the volunteers of Kairos have touched the lives of thousands of inmates with the message of Christ. Kairos, which is a Greek term meaning God's special time, invites offenders to come together over a 3-day weekend, where many learn about God's love and forgiveness for them for the first time.
I've known men that have, for a while, that have gone to Kairos, and I've known them all through the weekend and after the weekend, and a lot of them, it's like 2 different people. They come to Kairos and they experience something that they never thought they could experience before. And they're so overwhelmed by what they've seen that they take what they've learned on the weekend and put it into practice.
I've seen some come with anger, some have come with hopelessness, others have come with just giving up on life, suicidal even, I've seen. And just the light comes on and you see a different person. It changes their lives, not temporarily, because I've known them years before and I've watched them years later, and they bloom into somebody else.
By the time you get to that 3rd day, you know, you're not the same person anymore. You know, that experience, the love, everything that you experienced during that whole weekend, you know, by the time you graduate, you start seeing things differently.
My experience with Kairos is I've seen them take hardened individuals, provide the 3-day walk, and after the 3-day walk, I've seen a transformed person.
I have seen people change, actually really change. Their lives completely transformed. Honestly, I believe I'm one of those people.
I attended my Kairos when I was 19 years old. I had just entered the prison system. I had been given a life sentence. I was a young man, and I attended that Kairos. It literally changed me.
I am a completely different person since Kairos. Because of Kairos, I'm currently in college classes. I'm in the choir. I attend, I'm on the worship team. My life is just so much better since I took my Kairos walk.
I've met various people who have come out of prison who have been a participant of Kairos. And one of the things I always hear was that, you know, before they went to Kairos, their life was in a shambles, but after they went through Kairos, they kind of got a good perspective of, you know, who God is, what God is, and where the direction they wanted to go.
I have heard many women here speak of Kairos being the turning point when things in their life started to change. And I think that was because they acquired this awareness of God's presence in their life, God's love for them, God's forgiveness, which many of them have struggled with. Can God forgive me? Can I forgive myself? And I think doing a Kairos walk may be the first time that they really start to get that.
I was in prison with the possibility of serving the rest of my life there, of no hope of getting out. And God used that time to bring me to my knees and to bring me to Him. And I had to get to the end of myself. And when I did get to the end of myself, there was people there to pick me up. And that was Kairos Volunteers. And the love that these people showed me was just unbelievable. And it made all the difference in the world.
Kairos, for many of these offenders, is the first time that they've ever had someone from the outside come in and to care about them and to offer them hope.
Kairos Volunteers not only bring hope and the love of Christ to the lives of inmates, but they also help to change the culture inside the prison walls.
Kairos has a large presence in the Virginia prison system. We have over 90% of our high security prisons have Kairos events at them, and over 1,300 offenders participate in those.
Disciplinary reports reduce when Kairos is present, and it creates a very positive environment in the prison.
Virginia has a recidivism rate in 2014 of 22.8, which is the second lowest in the country. And Kairos being the program that it is, the prison ministry that it is, it aids Virginia in accomplishing its recidivism rate. And lower the recidivism rate, the safer society.
It also helps prison administrators because it helps those offenders that become positive, that begin to do positive pursuits as a result of Kairos. They help other offenders, and that becomes contagious, and then the environment becomes one that's more positive and more helpful.
We go in, we establish a community, and then we keep coming back, as Paul did, to nurture that community. We send others in to nurture that community. And that's what we're doing. We're planting Christian communities in prison systems.
The sisterhood and the fellowship that's involved with the reunions and retreats is just wonderful. It's very humbling, and it also creates an environment around here that we see each other and we speak because we know we're Kairos sisters.
One of the biggest things I have seen is that hope and their behavior. Their behavior turns from themselves to kind of helping others or interest in others.
At S2, the amount of infractions has gone down. Basically, officers want to come to S2 to serve there because it is known as more of a quiet, more cooperative unit because Kairos has been there the longest. And it expanded from there to the other two clusters, and the same thing is going on.
Kairos has been a powerful influence on the institution. I think it changes the tone of the institution. I think it changes the way people behave towards one another. It certainly has positive effects on the women who directly participate. But the bottom line is, you know, Kairos in the prisons changes lives, and it changes the way the women here live out their lives at Fluvanna. I think and believe that it changes the way they're going to live their lives when they go home.
And it changed me, and it's changing the prisons. And when it's changing these guys in prison, when they get out, it's going to change their neighborhoods. And when it changes their neighborhoods, it starts changing the cities, and the cities, the states, the country. I mean, and it just goes on and on and on.
As one of the world's largest prison ministries, Kairos International is changing the lives of a forgotten population desperate to know what real love and acceptance is.
Men do not get that level of love under these conditions over the long term. They lose relationships with their children, with their mothers, siblings, and so on. And so when men come in and demonstrate that love, then it opens up places that we closed off for years, and it allows us to live again.
The Bible teaches us, in the Bible it says, if you see a man hungry and cold and thirsty, and all you do is tell him, hey, be well, and you keep on going down the road, what have you done for him? Nothing. Well, Kairos comes in, and they see us in that state, and they do what the Bible says. They feed you, not the cookies, they feed you spiritually. They clothe you with that love, you know? They're there for you to nurture you, to lift you up, make you feel like a human being again, you know? And all the words in the world can't do that. You've got to put that into action.
To know that there's people beyond these walls that actually care about us it's just awesome. It's an awesome feeling, especially when you have family members that don't care about you.
Once you've developed a love or an appreciation for the situation of incarcerated Christians, I think that the love of Christ goes before you and paves the way. And once you're there, it's easy to forget that the people that you're interacting with are actually serving a prison sentence.
But I was in prison and someone visited me, and that was Kairos. And you know, the Bible tells us that's Jesus. That when you go and visit somebody in prison, that's Jesus.
And one of the things that stood out the most with me is the moment I walked into my first Kairos, is those men never looked at me as a prisoner. I was someone that they loved and they cared about. And they went out of their way to show that love, and it changes you.
To see somebody change from one aspect to another, positive, you know, it just gives you that sense of feeling of, you know, that God is who he say he is, you know. Because if God could change a man like me, you know, then there's nothing that God cannot do.
To see a lot of these girls come in here broken, unloved, feeling like they didn't belong anywhere, they didn't have a purpose in life, myself included. And the ladies that come in and do these walks show us unconditional love, the love that Christ has for us. And to know that there's actually people that don't know anything about us, that care enough to come in and take their personal time to teach us more about God, more about Christ, and more about the love that is offered and the forgiveness that is offered is amazing.
All across Virginia, ordinary men and women just like you are making a difference in the lives of inmates as Kairos volunteers.
If it wasn't for the volunteers that go into prisons, Kairos would mean absolutely nothing. It was an odd thing for me when I went there and I looked at all the men who were at that weekend, and I'm thinking, you guys ain't got nothing better to do but come in here to a prison and eat lousy food under lousy conditions and drink lousy coffee with a bunch of people that society has just given up on. But that's what made a difference, because they did it willingly, and that means something. That meant something to me, and I know it means something to each and every person that goes through Kairos.
Some of these prisoners here that have been locked up for so long with no contact with the outside world, they get those dead eyes because they're forgotten, and they start to die inside. And the Kairos, when they come in here, they let you know in no uncertain terms, you matter.
And being in prison, if you don't get visits, if you don't get letters, you know, if you don't get telephone calls, you know, to have somebody come back in there and say, hey, how you doing? How things going? You know, is there anything that, you know, I can help you with doing your spiritual walk? You know, that means a whole lot.
They need mentors, they need role models, they need people to help them make the right decisions. The right, in this case, faith-based decisions for their life and how they interact with others. And to have a regular volunteer come in and support them that knows them and helps them move forward is critical.
We need people to come in and show us that it can be different. Our lives can be completely different.
There's a point in the Kairos program where they bring out the little bags of letters, the brown bags of letters from people on the streets. And when they brought out those bags of letters to me the first time, I witnessed some of the toughest gang members that I have ever known in my life brought to tears by a little bag of letters. And it was just people saying, I care about you, I love you, you matter. People don't know. When you're cut off from the world for so long, something as simple as a pat on the back by somebody to tell you that they love you
The department is very fortunate to have people from the community to volunteer. I mean, volunteers are crucial.
You know, in religious services and spirituality services, so important for volunteers to come and share that. We cannot share that because of the separation of church and state. We can't do that, but volunteers can do that.
I think God is working through Kairos. I believe that with all my heart because of what I have seen here, what I've seen in the volunteers, and the difference that I've seen Kairos make in the lives of the women here.
You can make a difference too. If you want to change lives for eternity, God may be calling you to become a Kairos volunteer.
About 15 years ago, I told folks I wouldn't be involved in prison ministry. It just wasn't my thing. It wasn't my thing. And a former inmate asked me, he said, Mike, just go in one weekend. And if you don't like it, it's okay. I went in that one weekend, I came home, I said to my wife, I said, Nan, I'm stuck. This is it. I'm going to do this. And that's what I've been doing.
I just think it is critical that Kairos does find more volunteers because the needs are huge in the prisons. Even though Kairos has a strong presence, we need more and more presence because there are many more offenders that need help.
You know, sometimes for people coming into a prison for the first time is a scary thing, but there is no better place, I think, to see dramatic differences being made in the lives of individuals than being at a place like this and working through a ministry like Kairos. It's a way that they can really make a difference, a significant difference in the lives of someone else.
Whenever God leads you out of your comfort zone to do something for the Lord, you will get extraordinarily blessed. Your blessing will far out exceed what you give. What you give will be God working through you, but your blessing will be amazing. Your life will never be the same. You will have the adventure of your life.
I believe for a volunteer, it has to be so incredibly rewarding to see the changes you see in people and to make a difference in someone's life.
We go in with the expectation that we are going to be bringing a blessing. And a lot of times what actually happens is that we're blessed beyond measure.
If you want to see true change, you want to see transformation, you want to see a person change from one moment to the next, being part of Kairos will give you the opportunity.
When I go into prison, I don't see it as a chore. I don't see it as I'm happy to go into prison. I love going into prison. And when I come out, it's almost like I'm on a high, and it's amazing.
I just have such admiration for these women. And words could never really truly express my appreciation and my thanks for them, but it's immense. And I just thank you so much for coming in here and giving your time and the love that you give us.
I am extremely humbled by the volunteers. I don't think I can ever say thanks enough, you know, or be grateful enough for the sacrifices that they make.
We need godly people in here. Just so many of us in here is lost. I know Kairos is God's special time. We need to be introduced to him.
If you really want to change the world, start one life at a time, start with your own, and then take it to prison and help change somebody else's.
If that's the kind of reward that you're looking for, there's no greater program in the world than the Kairos program, none.
Child was sung, come to Kairos, come to Kairos, a gentle voice is calling me, lay your burden on my shoulder, come to Kairos and be free, come to Kairos, come to Kairos. A gentle voice is calling me, lay your burden on my shoulder. child grew to be